Keanu Reeves' grief and loss, those things don't ever go away. I'll sit anywhere you want me to. This okay? Gallery the roles that made Keanu Reeves a Hollywood star photos. We are meeting today to discuss his latest film, John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. It will unquestion Part 3 Chapter 3 is larkier than its two predecessors, including one incredible scene in which Reeves offs some bad guys using an actual horse as a weapon. Rest assured the horse escaped unharmed. As a testament to it, quickly becomes clear that polite firmness is Reeves' modus operandi when it comes to nosy questions. He will give the impression of being up for answering anything while, in fact, saying very little, or nothing at all. Sample exchange. With any character, the way I think about it is, you have the role on the page, you have the vision of the director, and you have your life experience, he says. Did he bring his experience of bereavement to the role? Oh yeah, I thought, what is it about grief that interests him? Well, has he been thinking more about the people he has lost as he's grown older? I don't think it's anyone in particular. Lots of people. Keanu Reeves was born in Beirut, Lebanon, the son of an English mother and Hawaiian Chinese father. His first name, Reeves' father left the family when Keanu was 3, and disappeared entirely from their lives when he was 13. He and his sister that's a pretty hard age for a parent to vanish off the scene, I say. For sure. Did his father ever contact him again? Yeah, in the this was after his father had been convicted for selling heroin? Yeah, but so why not? I just didn't. Often the class clown at school, Reeves liked sport and loved acting, and got an agent as a teenager after being talent spotted in a play. He dropped out of high. Today Reeves has a good riposte to the criticism that he doesn't, or can't, act. I certainly never. It would have been pretty funny if Branagh had said that, though. Of course. I've never really understood the criticism. Okay. Honestly, I try not to do anything I don't want to do. But I guess that refers to 1991's My Own Private Idaho, in which he and River Phoenix play street hustlers. Reeves they had something else in common, a shared experience suggested in where the two sit by a campfire and talk haltingly about their childhoods. Mike Phoenix: if I had a normal family, and a good upbringing, then I would have been a well-adjusted person. Scott Reeves: depends on what you call normal. Mike didn't have a dog, or a normal dad. Anyway, Scott what's a normal dad? Phoenix's dysfunctional childhood, growing up in a rackety family who for a time belonged to the Children of God cult, has been well documented. Reeves was different. He ponders the question a full 10 seconds. Certainly, 2 years after My Own Private Idaho's release, the actor who desperately wanted to avoid every Hollywood cliché died the most cliched death imaginable, of a drugs overdose on Sunset Boulevard in 1993. Plenty of his it's hard to tell if he's being blithe or defiant when he insists he still lives his life totally normally, unaffected by fans. But if Leonardo but Leonardo has fame and fans that I don't have in that way. Definitely. Come on, surely fans bother him all the time? But the worst, in the 1980s and 1990s, he was offered every hot young part under the sun, which went to Charlie Sheen and Val Kilmer's role in Heat. But when I ask, maintaining his privacy has been a major factor in helping Reeves retain his sanity, yet away from the press, he can be extraordinarily open and laid back. By a weird fluke, but he bristles when I mention these stories. I am pretty private, because he worries it will look like he's just doing it for show? No. Ah well. I have accepted I don't know. This dream ain't. If you would like a comment to be considered for inclusion on Weekend Magazine's letters page in print, please email, including your name and address not for publication. MSN UK are empowering happiness for Mental Health Awareness Month. Find out more
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.